Good morning, children. Welcome to today's reading lesson. So, date is Tuesday, the 26th of January. Our learning objective is the same as yesterday, to be able to retrieve information from the text to make inferences. So, we're still focusing on our Vipers, retrieval and inference for today's lesson. We are going to be moving on and reading the next two chapters of Room 13. So, we're going to be reading chapters 20 and 21 together. So, again, we'll read through the two chapters in today's lesson. As we go through, I will be stopping every now and then to give you a few questions just to think about. Just take some time to pause the video to answer those questions in your books or in a discussion if you're working with somebody. And then at the end of the video, there will be some questions for you to answer in your books, okay? When you're answering those questions, don't forget you can go back through the video and stop at various points to help you answer these questions. So if there's a reference to a certain page number, go back through the video and find where we look at that page number. Okay, so chapter 20. When Fliss and Lisa got back, the teachers had already called everybody together for the return journey. It was only 3:15, but the mist had thickened and there was a hint of drizzle in it. Some of the kids were sitting on rocks, drying their feet with gritty towels, pulling on socks and boots. Others stood waiting with their hoods up and bags of pebbles dangling at the sides. A small party, supervised by Mrs. Evans, was picking up the last scraps of litter. Bottom Top Middle prided itself on the fact that whenever a group of its children vacated a site, they left no evidence that they had ever been there. As they trudged up towards the path in the cliff, Fliss saw a large, slate-coloured pebble lying on the sand. Something about it appealed to her, its perfect oval shape, perhaps, or its wonderful smoothness. She bent and picked it up. It was thick and far heavier than she had expected, and when she tried to add it to the collection in her polythene bag, it wouldn't fit. She was cramming it in her anorak pocket when Mrs. Evans, who was bringing up the rear, said, "Felicity, you don't really want that, dear. It's far too big. You'll be crippled by the time you've carried it all the way back to Whitby. Not to mention the fact that it will probably tear your pocket. Throw it away." Fliss was a quiet girl who never argued with her teachers, and so she surprised herself as well as Mrs. Evans when she said, "I like it, miss. I want to keep it." It was lucky for Fliss that Richard Varley chose that moment to leap on Barry Tune's back. As the two boys fell onto the sand, Mrs. Evans called sharply and hurried to separate them, and by the time she had done so, the line of children was toiling up the cliff path. She had to put on a spurt to catch up, and the pebble incident was forgotten. The rest of the walk back was uneventful, except that it started to rain in earnest, which made the duck boards slippery. Several children fell, to the delight of the rest, who laughed and cheered their classmates' misfortune. By 5:20 they were back at the crow's nest, drenched and happy. They were sent to their rooms to change and to write up their journals. It was during this interlude that Fliss and Lisa, Trot and Gary met briefly on the 4th floor landing. "We all set for tonight?" asked Fliss. She felt tense, and was amazed that for a few hours today she'd actually succeeded in forgetting all about this. The others nodded. "Same time, same place," said Trot, "and let's hope nothing happens." "Any news of Ellie Mae?" asked Lisa. Gary shrugged. "I saw Mrs. Marriott going into her room as I came up. Maybe they'll call her parents to take her home or something." "Oh, I wish they would," sighed Fliss. "I'm fed up of feeling scared." Trot nodded. "Me too." "We all are," said Lisa. "Who wouldn't be?" After tea, everybody had to rest quietly for an hour in their rooms to let their food settle before Mrs. Evans took them swimming. Fliss couldn't rest. There was something she had to do. She looked out of the window. Yes, old Sal was there as usual. Mumbling something about going to the toilet, Fliss left the room, slipped down the stairs and let herself out. It was still raining. The old woman looked up as the girl reached the shelter. Fliss smiled. "Hello." Sal nodded. "Evening." What do you think Fliss is going to be talking to Sal about? Why has she approached that woman? Have a little pause and a little think about what she might be going to talk to her about. Fliss blushed, looking down at her feet. She didn't know what to say. I'm staying at the Crow's Nest. Aye, I know. I've seen you lots of times, through the window. The Crow nodded. Windows is the eyes of a house. Fliss smiled. Yes, eyes, watching the sea. Lucky old house. Lucky? Something rattled in Sal's throat. You're wrong, child. It's got the other eye, see? The eye that sleeps by day. Oh, has it? Fliss smiled. Not sure whether she ought to. The eye that sleeps by day. Sounds balmy. But then, so does room 13. Should she mention room 13 to Sal? No, there wasn't time. It only needed a teacher to look in room 10, and she'd be in more trouble. She looked at the old woman. I'd better get back. They'll be wondering... She let the sentence hang, turned and ran through the rain with her head down. Nobody had missed her, and when the swimming party set out 20 minutes later, old Sal had gone. The rain-lashed streets were practically deserted, and when they got to the pool, they found that they had it almost to themselves. They made the most of it, leaping and splashing and whooping in the warm, clear water under Mrs. Evans' watchful gaze. A puzzled frown settled for a moment on the teacher's face, when she noticed 4 of the children standing by the steps at the shallow end, taking no part in the revelry. Odd, she mused. Very odd. You'd think they were non-swimmers or something, but they're not. Still, it's up to them, isn't it? Perhaps they're tired from the walk today. Her eyes moved on, and the frown dissolved. Oh, who might those 4 children be, do you think? Which 4 are not taking part? Why might they not be taking part? Chapter 21. Nobody called Ellie Mae's parents or took her home. The word was that she was a little better and might even be with them on the coach to Robin Hood's Bay the following day. Fliss wasn't fooled. At 10 o'clock she was lying on her back, staring at the wire mesh under Marie's mattress, waiting for 11:30. Her hands were folded across her chest, and under them was the pebble from Saltwick Bay. She felt its weight when she breathed, and her fingers caressed its perfect, soothing smoothness. She was tired. Not from swimming, neither she nor the other 3 had swum, but from the exertions of the day and a sleepless night before. The swimming must have finished off Marie and the twins, because they were zonked out already. She listened to their breathing and wondered if she could stay awake. She didn't. Not completely. At least twice she drifted off and woke with a start, thinking she'd missed the witching hour. But there was to be no such luck. When the town clock chimed for 11:30, she was wide awake and scared. This time she got to the bathroom first. Trot and Gary came nearly straight away. But it was 19 minutes to 12 when the door of room 11 opened and Lisa slipped out. Sorry I'm late, she whispered. I fell asleep. It's okay, Fliss told her. I fell asleep too. Twice. I was spark out, admitted Trot. This div had to shake me like a madman to wake me up. He looked at Gary. Didn't you, Gaz? Gary nodded. You should have got yourself a stick of rock like mine. I sucked that from 10 o'clock and I didn't nod off once. Dirty pig, shuddered Lisa. I don't know how you can. Gary grinned. You should see it. It's getting a really good point on it now. Tell you what I do want to see tonight, said Fliss. I want to see how the 13 gets on that door. I want to be watching when the clock starts striking midnight. See the exact moment the number appears. Yeah, Trot nodded. Good idea. Let's do that. I've brought my torch, said Lisa. We can shine it on the door, right where the number will be. We'll see really clearly then. They waited. Gary, sitting on the rim of the bath, looked at his watch every few seconds. Fliss went to the hand basin, ran a trickle of cold water into her cupped hands and sucked it up, watching herself in the mirror. Trot stood by the window, gazing out. The patterned glass splintered the light from a street lamp. Lisa leaned on the wall by the door, switching her torch on and off. After a while, Fliss whispered, "Maybe she won't come." "It's only 5 to," Gary told her. "Plenty of time yet." He hoped Fliss was right. When his watch told him it was a minute to midnight, Gary got up and went over to the door. The others joined him, jostling quietly till they could all see, and Lisa was at the front with her torch. 13 seconds, he hissed, and began counting down. At 15 seconds, Lisa switched on and steadied the disc of light on the right spot. It was not spectacular. As Gary whispered 0, they heard the town clock chime, then strike. At about the 4th stroke, they noticed a small, shapeless mark on the door, and Lisa moved the torch slightly to get it in the centre of her beam. It was like a stain, lighter than the surrounding woodwork. As stroke followed stroke, the stain seemed to shrink and become paler, and then to divide, becoming 2 whitish blobs whose shapes altered until, by the 12th stroke, they formed the figures 1 and 3. As the echo died, they heard a door close somewhere below. "I think she's coming," warned Fliss. "Switch the torch off, Lisa." She did so, plunging the landing into darkness. They withdrew and half closed the door again. "Did you see that?" breathed Trot. "It just came out of nowhere. I can't believe it." Fliss snorted. "You've got to believe it, you div. You saw it. The point is, what do we do when Ellie Mae gets here?" "We stop her," hissed Gary. "By force if we have to. We agreed." "Okay, but which of us actually goes out there and grabs her? Or do we all go?" Lisa shook her head. "We can't all go. It'd scare her to death. It should be a girl. Fliss, you or me. But I think we should try calling her first, from here." "Shh!" Trot pressed a finger to his lips. "She's here." They looked out. Ellie Mae was standing on the top step, looking at the door to room 13. She hesitated for a moment, then moved forward. Lisa nudged Fliss. "You or me?" "Me." As Ellie Mae drew level with the bathroom, Fliss cupped her mouth in her hands and hissed, "Ellie Mae!" The girl didn't turn or pause, but continued walking slowly towards the cupboard. Using her full voice this time, Fliss called out, "Ellie Mae, over here!" It made no difference. The girl was standing before the door now, reaching for the knob. Fliss felt a push in the small of her back, and Lisa hissed, "Go on, for heaven's sake, before she opens that door." She left the bathroom and moved across the landing, approaching Ellie Mae from the rear. As the girl's hand closed around the knob, Fliss took a gentle grip on her shoulder and said, "Ellie Mae, you don't want to go in there." She felt the thin shoulder stiffen under her hand. Ellie Mae's head turned slowly, and Fliss found herself gazing into eyes which were dead as a shark's. The girl's lips twitched. "Let go of me," she hissed. "Leave me alone." "Ellie Mae!" Fliss swung her round and held her by both shoulders. "Listen, we're trying to help you. If you go in that room, you'll die." Ellie Mae snarled, shaking her head. "Never die. Never. You. Not me." She tore herself from Fliss's grip and turned, scrabbling for the doorknob. "Gary!" cried Fliss. "Lisa, quick! I can't hold her." There was a scampering of bare feet on the carpet, and they were with her, the 3 of them. Hands reached out, snatching fistfuls of Ellie Mae's clothing, circling her wrists. She hissed and fought, amazingly strong, freeing one hand to twist the doorknob and push. The door swung inward. Fliss, one arm crooked around Ellie Mae's neck, glanced inside and saw not a cupboard, but the room of her dream. There was the table, with the long, pale box upon it, and beyond, a small, curtained window. A window which wasn't there in the daytime. The eye that sleeps by day. She dug her heels into the carpet, threw her weight backwards, and fell with Ellie Mae on top of her. Quick, one of you close that door. She flung both arms round Ellie Mae's waist and held on as the girl bucked and writhed. Lisa dropped to her knees, grabbed Ellie Mae's legs and fell forward, pinning them under her. Fliss heard the door slam, and then the boys were there, catching the girl's wildly flailing arms. Ellie Mae fought on for a moment, but there were too many for her. Fliss felt the thin body go limp, and the girl began to cry. When they let go of her, she lay curled on her side with her thumb in her mouth, moaning softly. They got up and stood, looking down at her. "What do we do now?" asked Lisa. As she spoke, they heard voices below and footsteps on the stairs. "It won't be up to us," said Gary. "Here comes the cavalry." Okay, so that's the end of chapters 20 and 21 there. So we've had a few more, interesting events happen right at the end there. How do you think those 4 children are feeling at the end of this chapter? After what they've just had to do with Ellie Mae, how do you think they're going to be feeling? Why do you think Ellie Mae has reacted the way she has when they've tried to help her? Just gather your thoughts for a few moments and write some ideas down. Okay, these are your questions for today. Same as we said yesterday, just find your groups, have a go at your group's questions. Remember, you can go back through the video and pause it at any time to find, the space in your text where you want to check your answers and retrieve the information from them. If you complete your group's task and you want to have a go at some of the extra questions which are in the other group's question boxes, then feel free to challenge yourself, push yourself, and have a go at those extra questions. Best of luck, guys. I look forward to seeing some of your work, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.